Good morning, Michelle Walford here, and I'm going to show you how to very quickly edit the audio in a pre-recorded Zoom session. A lot of us now, because of the coronavirus, are recording our programming at home. A lot of us are using Zoom to do that. So a couple days ago, my colleague in Extension created a 32-minute and 40-second video that she presented on Zoom. So she showed a PowerPoint. She narrated it as she would if she were standing in front of an audience. And she recorded it through Zoom. That created, when she was finished, because she recorded it to her computer, it created an MP4 file, which is a file that we can easily edit. And she sent it to me with some specific instructions. There are a couple places where she stopped and started, and all of us do that. We'll get in there, we flub our words, we'll say cut, we'll start over. So there's a little bit of that in there. There are some times where maybe she got distracted or she lost her train of thought. Again, everyone does that. Or you're sitting down and you're reading a script, you're flipping the pages, you just flub your lines a little bit, so you want to start over. And then sometimes you just want to get your thoughts together. You just pause for a couple seconds to realign and go forward, particularly when you're changing from one slide to another. That is all natural. Everybody does it. And when we are presenting to each other in person, that there's that human interface. You're seeing the body language with the speech. You're seeing the smiles. You don't even think about these pauses. But when you're concentrating in on a video that you're sending out, to have these 5, 4, 3, 8, 10-second pauses in between strictly visual presentation, that makes it look less crisp, it makes it look less concise, and it's more difficult for someone who's watching this on a screen. If there's too many of these pauses, it can be troublesome. So my colleague sent this to me and said, hey, can you clean it up? She identified particular things she wanted where she said cut, she wanted to redo it, and that's fine. Those, when she says cut and there's a space, I can pick those out. If you're an experienced film editor or audio editor, you're going to notice these things, you're going to see patterns. I know when I'm editing my own narrative, such as this video, I'll probably narrate when I say my ums look like those islands up in Maine, those porcupine islands, those glacial islands that are or mountains that look like they're rounded at the top. Mine have a distinct appearances. Everybody does. So, but if you're familiar with the track that you're editing, they become very easy to spot, and it's not too difficult for us to take those out. So we can, if you speak 20 ums in 1 minute, we can take maybe 19 of them out. You don't want to take every space and every gap out, because then you're just not going to sound like a normal human being. But we definitely can, through editing, clean some of it up. So let's take this 34-minute video that came through Zoom. So this is a Zoom meeting, and it comes down. I'm using iMovie, and this to me is the easiest. You don't want to have, I have Final Cut Pro, which is proprietary to Apple, as is iMovie is the amateur version of Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro has it's a lot more complicated interface, as is Premiere Pro. It's a very good editing software program for Macs and PCs, but it's too complicated for what I want to do here. iMovie is fantastic for editing out ums and spaces and gaps in your presentation. So once it's in iMovie, you're going to go over here to a slider, and I'm going to blow this up a little bit, but when I do, it does make my computer a little tricky. So I apologize if my screen jumps a little bit, but I do want you to see what I'm seeing, and it does help to expand this audio track. So right now, I'm looking at, this is a half an hour compressed, and I can't edit that. So you have to go in and visually expand it. So you have a slider here. And when you have a slider here, you'll notice, and then I'll just bring this in just a little bit. You're going to now see these little porcupine island shape. This is what my ums, in fact, that might even be an let's just say.
Farm to my
No, it says farm. But My ums look like that all the time. But here you see normal speech. You have some low-lying, I call them islands, but some low-lying waves. This is called a waveform, by the way, this blue bar. That's usually things like sighs, breathing in and out, sniffing, possibly some paper rattling. Depends on your microphone and what it picks up. Then over here you have absolutely nothing. You have, again, some low-lying, but when you play this, you're not going to hear anything, possibly a little rattling. Let's listen.
Welcome to.
All right. So what you want to do is look for, and this is the very, let's see, the very beginning. This was her getting ready. So when she hits record, you usually just don't start right away. So all of this is her just getting herself comfortable in her chair, taking a deep breath, getting ready to speak. So this can all be removed. And right about here is where she says, welcome. Let's just hover over that one more time.
Welcome to first stage.
All right, so I'm going to hover a little bit over the speech, a little bit before. I'm going to allow a little bit of space. You want to allow space between sentences because that's normally when human beings take a breath. It's how we're used to listening to the human voice. So you don't want to just be clipping off all the space before and after a sentence. So I'm going to leave it, I could even leave it about there. I'm going to put my marker on here and I'm just going to right click and hit split clip. I'm going to remove this whole front section. And we're talking about 5 seconds here. So let's just move forward a little bit. We're going to keep going. This track here looks good. So this is her talking. What you're hearing now is called scrubbing. I'm just moving it with my finger. So now we come to our first gap. Here you see the end of a sentence. If you notice this, so look at my marker and you'll see the peak of the sound and then it trails off as it moves to the right. Then there's nothing. Then there's a little tiny low lying and then it peaks back up. So I'm guessing just from looking at it that I'm going to cut here. I don't want to cut. Let me blow this up. This is really important. This is where her speech ends. You don't want to cut there. You want to allow a little bit of space. So I'm going to go there and I'm going to cut. Now by cutting, you haven't deleted it yet. The cutting will be indistinguishable. You won't even hear it. You can, if the person's on camera, you can see their face jump a little bit. So you have to be very careful how you do that. But for something like this, this is pretty cut and dry. So I'm gonna, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's just background noise. And then she begins her sentence with, so I don't want to cut right there at that edge. That would be too close. I'm going to cut it in the middle of where there's nothing at all. So I'm going to go right here. Okay, that leaves me with half a second. So let's just listen to it first to make sure I'm not cutting out anything important. So I'm going to hit play.
County. Today we're going to talk about
Good. So now I'm just going to take that out and let's play it back with that pause out.
County. Today we're going to talk about Delaware agriculture.
So that's the procedure that you do. You go through here and scan for, and I look at it, I look at something like this and I would stop here because that's a significant gap. So I'll come in and split, and I'm going to come right in there and split. And I've done this already once. I've reduced it from 32 minutes and 40 seconds to, I think, 27 minutes. So I took a good five minutes off of this presentation just by removing gaps. Not every single one, but most of them. So here, that's almost a full second. And I'll just go through here and scan. Now here's a real big giant one. Look at this. Oh my goodness. So here, and in fact, in her email to me, she said, please cut out between here and here. So I know that's just shutter noise. So I'm just going to come here and hit split clip. I'm going to go back just because I know what it looks like. None of this, and right here. So now here it is, 15 seconds. That's too long to leave in. So let's play it and see what we're cutting out. Nothing, I'm sure.
If you haven't already,
So that's safe to remove, and I do. And so you just go through and there's all kinds of reasons people have pauses. Somebody comes in a room, they hold up their hand and say, not now, I'm recording, kind of thing. And so you don't know the circumstances. You just want the finished product to be as best as it can be. Here's something here. I would be suspicious of that, so let's just hear what that sounds like.
Delaware. The
So that's just Delaware, and then an inhale. So I could cut that out or leave it in. You can leave a few of these in. Don't feel like you have to take them all out. Again, the person's going to sound like a robot if you do. But you want to go through the waveform and look for something that doesn't, and you just get to know their pattern of their speech. And I don't even have to check these anymore. Just a few seconds, and we'll do one more. I'm looking for something that's really looks, there's a huge gap there, and it's connected. There's not quite a real clean. So let's just see here. I'm going to play it.
Self.
Okay, so she said self. And so here at this point, again, let me blow this up. Come in, plus. You do not want to terminate it there at the end of the sentence. Give a little bit of space. I would say there is fine. Split that. Then you go through here. Now here it's tricky because there's a breath and it goes right to a word. Let's hear how that sounds.
Today,
I'm going to split it. I'm going to start here.
today we will learn.
No, so that didn't work. See, I got rid of the two. I came into today, so I'm going to undo that, or I'll leave it in, but I'll just come back here and cut it right here. That's the today. So I'm going to come in. She has a little bit of breath, but a little bit of breath is fine. So I'm going to just come in here and hit split. So I'm going to take that part out. You don't have to rejoin it, so it'll sound like this.
Today, we will learn about Delaware agricultural history and the current status, the importance of fruits and vegetables, produce food safety basics, local produce availability, handling, and storage, and some tips for a home fruit and vegetable garden.
So all those little tiny 1 second spaces, personally, I think they're fine because she's actually introducing here's what we're learning today, these 3 things, these 4 things. So I think a natural pause between those topics because she's categorizing them is absolutely appropriate. Could I go back in there and take it out? Yes, but I don't think it would sound as natural. But here you have quite a big gap. So the other thing you can do is your M on your keyboard, and that's going to put a marker so you could go back and remember it. So let's just go back here and hit play.
A very long time ago.
Okay.
A very
So right here, I'm going to hit M. So that gives me a visual of where I think I'm going to cut. So she begins a very long time ago. And it's important with a very long time ago, I'm going to go in even further. When you really blow it up, you'll see that there's a little bit of a space between what she said here, this is her breath, and the words a very long time ago. Let's just play it.
A very long.
All right, so I know that that's safe to cut, and I don't want to cut it right before she begins a very long time ago. I want to come back a little bit. And I want to split that clip. And then I'm going to go back here to where I said I wanted to split it. You have to highlight it. And now I have 2 seconds that I can eliminate from the track. So that's how we edit for cleanup. You'll notice when people say ums or whatever it is that they, and there's the issue with mine. There we go. So when people's speech patterns, you'll begin to notice there's a breath, an inhale or an exhale. You'll notice big long gaps here. So this would be another one that I would come in just by looking at it. Now I can go in and go click here, and almost safely do it without even, that's how confident I am of her patterns and how I can go in now and split that and split that. And let's see how much I'd be saying. 2.2 seconds. These add up. So look for the long gaps, look for mistakes. And of course, when you are recording, if you do make a mistake, you can be, for instance, I'll lose my train of thought here for a second on purpose. Cut, start over. So as you can see, people do lose their train of thought. So when I'm doing that, that actually will show up. And if somebody gives that to me, I see where they say cut, and it really stands out. It would be like this with a blip right in the middle. There'd be like an individual mountain here, and it would be her saying cut. And then I know it really helps me as an editor. I listen to the whole track anyway, but I can go in and go, oh, that's an anomaly. And then I can go in there and clean that up. You don't have to re-record everything. Just say cut and repeat it, and we can get it so that it's seamless for you. It's pretty easy to do. This might be one. Let me see.
Cultural practices.
No. All right. Well, hopefully that helped you. It's a quick tutorial. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.